The Philippine military said Monday it plans to acquire the U.S. Typhon missile system to protect its maritime interests, some of which overlap with regional power China. The U.S. Army deployed the mid-range missile system in the northern Philippines earlier this year for annual joint military exercises with its longtime ally, but decided to leave it there despite criticism by Beijing that it was destabilizing to Asia. Typhon missiles are sought for its capability to protect and deploy low-apons with long-range capacity. The Typhon weapons system developed by Lockheed Martin is a multi-domain missile launcher designed to address emerging threats and enhance the United States' layered defense strategy. It is part of the U.S. Army's efforts to modernize its artillery and missile capabilities under the Mid-Range Capability MRC program. Purpose: provides a mid-range capability to engage and neutralize land and maritime targets. Bridges the gap between the shorter-range precision strike missile PRSM and the longer-range long-range hypersonic weapon LRHW. Missile compatibility: capable of launching a variety of missiles, including Tomahawk Land Attack Missiles LAM, Standard Missile 6SM-6, a multi-role missile for anti-air, anti-surface, and ballistic missile defense. Typhon is designed for integration on land-based platforms, including heavy-duty trucks. Modular and transportable, allowing for rapid deployment across different theaters of operation. It supports key features such as multi-mission capability, supports both offensive and defensive operations. Networked operations integrates seamlessly with other military systems for targeting and coordination. Advanced targeting uses modern sensors and data integration for precision engagement.
Yes, there are plans, there are negotiations because we see its feasibility and adaptability. The Army was tasked to come up with plans, take note, come up with plans to contribute to the comprehensive archipelagic defense. And one of our input is to be able to defend this land is through this type of platform. Among the several platforms that we need to defend our country. So there's a long list of new platforms the Army has planned and is working with not only with the United States but also allied countries for this numerous platform that we need to defend the country.
For context, China is an expansionist state and claims territories that they do not own and sends their military to occupy disputed areas. The Philippines has been awarded by the UNCLOS the rights of its EEZ or exclusive economic zones, which extends beyond 200 nautical miles to which China illegally occupies and harasses Filipino fishermen. The presence of the U.S. missile system on Philippine soil had angered Beijing, whose forces have engaged in escalating confrontations in recent months with the Philippines over disputed reefs and waters in the South China Sea. Chinese Defense Minister Dong Jun warned in June that the Typhon deployment was severely damaging regional security and stability. Here's China's warning to the Philippines upon hearing the news.
We once again advise the Philippine side that the only correct choice for safeguarding its security is to adhere to strategic autonomy, good neighborliness, and peaceful development. We are telling the Philippine side that China will never stand by and watch its own security interests being jeopardized or threatened, and that if the Philippine side is bent on having its own way, it will surely lift a rock and smash its own foot. The Philippine side once said publicly that the Typhon system would only be used for a routine exercise, promising to withdraw it upon the completion of the exercise in September this year. But then it changed its statement to say that it hoped to deploy the Typhon system permanently, and it was even prepared to purchase the system. This is a typical case of breaking one's promise and reneging on it. At present, who are the ones who keep provoking the South China Sea? And who are the ones who are cooperating with the extraterritorial forces in showing off their force? And who is violating the law under the banner of international law? The countries of the region can see this clearly.
Here's what the Philippines Department of National Defense has to say about the comment from China.
But Teodoro, in a statement on Tuesday, December 24, says the deployment of such weapons in the country is completely legitimate, legal, and beyond reproach. Teodoro adds that any deployment and procurement of assets related to the Philippine security and defense fall within the country's own sovereign prerogative and are not subject to any foreign veto. According to Teodoro, the country's move of deploying such weapons is not targeted against specific countries, but rather it is targeted against security risks, threats, and challenges. Furthermore, Teodoro says that the Chinese Communist Party must stop their provocative actions and withdraw their illegal presence from the Philippines' exclusive economic zone and adhere to international law if they are truly intent on reducing tensions and instability in the region.
And to learn more about what the new missile launchers mean for security in the region, Jaime Ocon spoke to Aaron Matthew Lariosa, a security analyst based in Washington, D.C.
Aaron, I want to first start off with this Typhoon missile launcher. Why is this system significant for security in the region?
There was a lot of speculation last year to see where we'll get deployed first. People were thinking Japan, maybe somewhere on Guam, perhaps Okinawa, and it ended up being Philippines. And the Philippines is a very significant deployment. And what the system actually brings to the archipelago. They stationed essentially a ground-based naval launcher that could fire Tomahawk cruise missiles that could reach the Chinese mainland and anything within the South China Sea. It's a very capable system, and it sends a really strong message. Strong enough that China has made noise. Let's just say complaints about the system being based in the Philippines since the deployment in April.
And what are you hearing from military officials in the Philippines? Is this part of a shift, or is there a clear consensus that this is kind of the way to go to manage this rise of Chinese aggression in the region?
Whenever we try to talk with the Army, obviously, how the Services Act, they kind of just say this isn't meant to deter anybody, or it's not meant to it's not specifically against China. That's what they always say. The deployment area, of course, very significant because it faces both the Luzon Strait, which right crosses Taiwan, and as bringing up rightfully so the Babi Channel, very strategic piece of water, very major transiting point between the first and second island chains. And then if we look westwards, that's the South China Sea where everything's been happening. So the deployment here kind of gives off both of those signals. It basically says, China, we could threaten stuff in the South China Sea, and we could also lock down this crucial piece of maritime geography.
And what are the implications for Taiwan? This system is positioned at the tippy top near Taiwan, in that waterway between Taiwan and the Philippines. Does this bring anything to security for Taiwan?
So, very complicated question in terms of how we get there, how we get to the use for a Taiwan contingency operation. But let's say, let's take liberty and say Manila allows use of its territory in the event of that. You essentially have a launcher that could lob cruise missiles within a pretty large landmass just south of the main landing port, which is Kaohsiung, right? So this thing could affect a lot. The Americans basically get a cruise missile launcher base anywhere in northern Luzon, which is a big place. So those ramifications are pretty big for any Chinese force planners that want to do anything with Taiwan.